Alright, welcome back to the channel, people of God. If you're new here, this is officially day number 15. Alright guys, as you guys can tell by the title, today we are reading the Psalm 2. Alright, this is the Psalm 2. And as I was saying, we are day number 15. That is because we are doing a series on this channel for the whole of this month, whereby we read through the book of Psalms. And so in case you are new, do be sure to go back and watch some of the previous videos. That being said, guys, today we are reading the Psalm 2 and we are reading from the ESV. Alright, and so I'll be reading through first, and then afterwards I'll give a brief explanation based on what I am taken away from this passage. All right, again, I will suggest that you also read it for yourself and then meditate on the word. All right, so this is the Psalm 2 and the title says the reign of the Lord's anointed. All right, Psalm 2, and I read, why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers counsel together against the Lord and against the anointed, saying, let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in heaven laughs, and the Lord holds them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, as for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. I will tell of the decree the Lord said to me, you are my son, today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron, and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Now therefore, O kings, be wise, be warned, O rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way, for his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. Here ends the reading. Alright, so before we do go over, I'd like to point out how we know the first two sentences are questions, right? It says, why do the nations rage and the people plot in vain, right? It is, and then the following basically from the verse 2, that is, the answer to it. And so when we read the verse 2 up until the 4, the Lord's reply is what I find so funny, right? And so I'll go over, and then afterwards I'll add what I have to say, right? And so I'm starting. It says, why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain, right? It's a question. And then 2 goes, the kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against the anointed, saying, let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us, right? And so I'll stop right here, and then afterwards I'll continue, right? And so the question comes and then the answer. I think what we have to pay attention to is the verse 3, where they say, let us burst their bonds apart, right? Let us, separate them. Let us, bring division, right? And I think one thing that we oftentimes see the enemy do so well is division. It is, funny, or I think it is a coincidence, or I don't believe in coincidences, but like, just for the saying, it's a coincidence that when the thing happened in the Garden of Eden, it was only Eve, right? We often see that the enemy will strike when there is division, right? And the enemy uses division to bring, trouble, right, against believers, and so even within the church. So then the verse 4 says, he who sits in heaven laughs and hold them in derision. Then he will speak to them in wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, as for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill, right? And then we continue from the 7, where it says, I will tell the decree the Lord said to me, you are my son, today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make nations of your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession, right? I'll finish and then I'll add what I have to say. All right, so then it continues in the 9, where it says, you shall break them with a rod of iron and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Now therefore, O kings, be wise, be warned, O rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you perish in the way, for his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him, right? Blessed are all who take refuge in him. I'd like to say that here the people that are taking refuge in the Lord are those who the kingdoms and the kings, come together to plan against, right? And so then going by this, we know that these people come together to bring down the people of God. However, it shall be in vain. So in a way, it kind of highlights the Bible verse that says, man has many plans, but it is the plan of the Lord that stands, right? And I would like to say, we often say, if you can't beat them, join them. Basically, when it continues in the later verse in the 10 where it says, now therefore, O kings, be wise. It is commanding them to be wise, right? And be warned, right? Because God will always stand behind his people. God will always fight for, his own. And the thing that makes this even that much better is that it says, he who sits in heaven laughs, bro. Like, God is unshaken by the plans of the kingdoms, of the kings, of, the system and everything that may, stand before his people. And so in the verse 7, David states what God says to him, right? Which is, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me and I'll make the nations your heritage and the ends of the earth your possession. One thing that as believers, we have to firmly hold on to and we have to know is that, the plans of God always stand, right? And so we see even in the Genesis, right, whatever was lost in Genesis, in the Revelation comes back, right? And so in the Genesis, people lost life, right? Life was lost, right, in trade of death because, of sin, right? Death came into the world because of sin. And then in Revelation, life is restored, right? And so we know that God will always get what he wants. And so as humanity lost God in Genesis, in Revelation there is a reconciliation which is done through Jesus Christ, right? And so this verse, again, this passage, to me, what I'm taking away from this is that, as the people of God, there should be no worry because God's plan will stand in the end. And so once again, if you can beat him, join him, align yourself with the plans of God. I always say, like, God likes to see his people prosper, as it says, right? Ask of me and I will make the nations your heritage, right? And make the earth your possession. I've said this multiple times where people kind of assume that Christians are not meant to, prosper in life. However, this world was made for that purpose, right? That God's name is glorified in the end. And so God delights in seeing his people grow, in seeing his people progress, right? However, oftentimes the enemy, as the Bible, depicts, comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. The dream, the passion, the drive that you have, which is a God-given drive, a God-given talent, the enemy oftentimes corrupts it, right? From the start, from when you are born. Why? We live in a fallen world, in our fallen nature. And so what the enemy does is that the enemy always tries to pervert a good thing, right? To force you to kind of chase after the world, as he said to Jesus when he tempted him, right, where he said, if you would bow to me, I'll give you the kingdoms, right? So the enemy oftentimes will find ways to draw you from God, and in doing so, it forces us to kind of forfeit the life, forfeit the power that God has granted us, right? Because if we live in a fallen world, right, the things that are not of God are much easier, right? There are so many ways you can do things to prosper in our lifetime right now that do not align with the purposes of God, right? They are made much easier. All you have to do is bow. All you have to do is compromise. All you have to do is do that which goes against God's word, and you have it all. However, if you would just align with God and surrender, God shall renew your thinking so that you see what life is really about, so that you see, that all that the enemy was offering, was not even his in the first place, and that it is for God. It is just God gave it to us in Genesis. However, we forfeited it when we sinned, right? And so again, all of creation is the Lord's, and those who align themselves with God shall be the inheritors of his creation. Alright guys, that brings today's video to an end. It was, a good read. It was a short read, but this above all serves as a warning to those who kind of plot or stand before God and stand against God. Alright, that concludes today's video, and I'll definitely say, if you are taking anything away from this video, do be sure to like the video, as it helps the channel a lot more than you think. Subscribe if you're new, and turn on your post notifications so that when I drop tomorrow, you do not miss it. Alright guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.